Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I read stories from across the internet for your entertainment. This particular story is called Human Tanks, written by Farm Witch 4275. This was the first tour group the humans had permitted in their space since the Agrian War some 5 years ago. We were more than just a little bit indebted to humanity following the end of the war. A war that was fought over 700 years, brought to its end in barely 5. Humanity is simultaneously wondrous and terrifying. So it was indeed a great honor that I, Ambassador Thrax Thran of the Eridanos peoples, be one of the few permitted to engage with humanity's tourism industry. I stood side by side my fellow delegates of the Galactic Confederacy and waited patiently for the tour to begin. Today was the first stop of our tour of human history. It was something the humans called a tank museum.
So, what exactly are we doing here then, Tank Museum? Are they going to show us a collection of storage equipment?
The Taurian ambassador asked in an annoyed fashion.
Don't be so cruel, Thanatos. You owe these humans as much a debt as the rest of us do. The least that you could do is humor them.
Ambassador Kren of the Serenai snapped at him. No, friends, let us not push the issue. We have a day off and are going to take a nice walk through the hallowed halls of history. I see no reason to whine. Let us enjoy ourselves and enjoy the buffet at the tour's end. I've heard human cuisine is beyond phenomenal. I responded in kind, calming the fears of my fellows.
Query. This one wonders what this facility is. Is it a storage hub or a warehouse? This one believes it is too small to be a museum.
Yoran from the Jahanti Imperium spoke next, his melodic voice titillating our senses. Our thoughts were interrupted by a human male, a very young one approaching us.
Good morning, everyone,
he yelled out in a happy and friendly tone.
My name is Marcus, and I'll be your guide for this tour. If you would please follow me.
He beamed a smile at us and beckoned us to follow him. Oh my, are all humans this intimidating? Kren whispered in my ear. Most of them, yes. The small ones are the real danger. I have been told that they have a raw power of cuteness. Apparently, it can break gods, I replied, relaying what I'd been told by others.
Oh my.
Welcome to the Museum of Military History in the University of Europa. Due to the damage sustained from the recent hurricane, this museum that we are going to take you to was damaged and shut down for repairs. However, we fully believe that this will make more than effective substitute and provide a more interactive experience. To begin our tour, we thought it pertinent to start with one of the greatest war machines that we have ever created, the tank, Marcus announced proudly. All of us looked at each other confused. Did humans drop liquid storage tanks on each other?
First, please, have a seat in these. We call them beanbag chairs, he said, gesturing to the strange chairs that were in the room. The chairs, if you could call them that, were strange foamy things that molded themselves to fit us. They were strangely comfortable, but it took us a fair amount of time to settle into them. This is a holographic simulation suite. It'll allow us to do basically anything, within a safe, controlled environment with absolute accuracy in simulation and visualization. So let's get started. This, is a tank, specifically an N3A, Washington main battle tank. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, Marcus said. The room suddenly went dark and a massive noise was heard. A strange metallic grinding, screwing noise came from the dark corner of the room, and a huge, lumbering metal beast on tracks appeared in our midst. We recognized it immediately. The humans called them tanks. What insult was this? We called them death boxes, wheeled evil menaces, or war beasts. They called them tanks? The machine trundled into the room with its engine roaring and performed several maneuvers in front of us, twisting its turret and its gun around. It performed maneuvers we thought impossible for any vehicle, such as performing a full turn while still in place. Never moving its cannon, its turret stayed fixed on target while it moved over hills and trenches,
with a kind of ease that would make a great skimmer and, back home, look like a paraplegic. Then, for the finale, it fired its cannon. A thunderous roar of the horrible beast put us all into terrified silence. That was a recording of a proving grounds run. It was simply a test to showcase the machine and prepare for battle. Do not be afraid, it is just a hologram. It can do no harm. Marcus smiled warmly at us. I don't know the effect had on the others, but I was not comforted at all. Now, the reason this was shown first on your tour was not because of recent events. It was because of an event that took place 300 years ago. You find yourselves here in an absolutely auspicious event. Today is the 300-year anniversary of the first ever tank versus tank battle in history. The scene changed to one of merciless devastation. The bland, smoky haze hung heavy in the air. The trunks of burnt-out trees and craters of artillery shells littered the ground. A loud, scratching, trundling noise came from the left, and a louder one came from the right. The background noises, falling shells, screaming men, and gunfire ranged through the air. April 24th, 1918, the Second Battle of Villers-Bretonneux rages on as French and Allied forces engage German troops on the battlefield. Dozens of smaller battles across this massive landscape, none more significant than this. In a field near the town of Amiens, 3 British Mark IV tanks approach their battle deployment line, while 3 German-made A7V tanks march to meet them. The scene changes to us gasping in horror as the massive, oddly shaped monsters appear out of the fog, bristling with cannons and machine guns. 3 British Mark IV tanks, 1 male variant featuring heavy cannons and artillery guns, and 2 female variants featuring infantry support weaponry, such as machine guns. Approaching them are 3 of only 20 A7V tanks ever built, armed with machine guns on all sides except the front, where an artillery gun is mounted. The slow-moving beasts, staggeringly slow, approached and spotted each other through the smog of war. We could clearly see the massive fundamental differences in design on both sides. The British Mark IV tank, with its classic lozenge shape, weighed 28 to 29 tons, was almost 26.5 feet long, more than 8 feet high, and up to 13.5 feet wide. It had a crew of 7 or 8, and came in 2 versions. The male with 2 6-pounder 57mm guns mounted on each side, and 3.303 machine guns, and the female with just 5.303 machine guns. Its top speed was a blazing 4 miles per hour. The German A7V tank weighed 30 to 33 tons, was more than 24 feet long, 10 feet wide, and more than 10 feet high. It had a crew of 18 and a single 6-pounder 57mm gun mounted on the front and the 6 7.9mm machine guns. The Germans called it the Monster. Marcus's explanation didn't make us feel any more comfortable, despite his pleasant demeanor. To this day, only one surviving model of the German A7V exists, permanently encased in amberlite, a synthetic form of fossilized tree sap that will guarantee that it will never disintegrate or suffers damage for millions of years to come. It currently sits in pride of place of the Queensland Museum in Australia, he said, giving us a quick look at the machine on display before returning to the simulation. The battle was short, but critical. The German tanks engaged first, causing damage to the 2 female variants, causing them to retreat. Cannon fire rang through our ears as we saw shells and machine gun fire being exchanged by these lumbering monstrosities. We could feel the sheer horrific impact of each shell hitting its target, as if we were inside of them. This was when the basis of all armored warfare until the Gulf War took place. The remaining British Mark IV was outnumbered and taking heavy fire. The vehicle was moving too much over the shattered terrain and broken craters that it was unable to accurately fire its cannon. The tank's crew commander, Mitchell, ordered the tank to stop. Mitchell's tank, now able to fire accurately, delivered 3 shells into one of the A7Vs, causing it to topple. We watched as 3 heavy shells blasted through the armor plating like it was made of paper. All 7 of us shuddered in terror as we heard and felt the huge tank of the machine toppling and hitting the ground. We watched as men poured out of the crippled machine and began to be hit by the Mark IV's machine guns. The Mark IV's crew began to panic, loading scattershot shells and firing at columns of advancing German infantry, because despite their victory, they were still in active combat zone.
German infantry attacks caused the crew to attack the other two targets, missing their shots. Miraculously, both the remaining A7V tanks retreated, allowing the crew to continue advancing. The scene showed the exchange of fire, followed by the agonizingly slow retreat of the two bigger tanks. Our minds were now scarred, even though some strange pixelations or blur covered each image, likely to stop us ever seeing the true horrors of war. We still felt more than just a little bit uneasy, scared, and sick at the sights. The battle continued. The Mark IV returned its advance and got stuck in a crater. By a great luck, the follow-up attack was being launched nearby by a company of 10 British Whippet tanks. The British medium Mark A Whippet weighed 14 tons, was 20 feet long, almost 9 feet wide, and 9 feet high. It had a crew of 3, and 4 303 machine guns at the top speed of slightly more than 8 miles per hour. The scene quickly changed to show an overview of this Whippet tank, followed by a scene changing back to the horrific noises of machine guns tearing through infantry. Even though it was censored by pixelation, we could clearly understand those tanks' treads were squashing humans as they moved around. The Mark IV continued its advance after repairs and getting out the crater, only to be engaged by another German A7V around 1,000 yards away. This time the Mark IV's luck ran out, and it was hit by an artillery shell, disabling its tracks. At this point, the commander ordered its crew to abandon and retreat to the front lines. This was the very first ever tank versus tank battle in human history. We sat stunned, unable to speak. The pixelation was thorough, but the sounds and noises made us know exactly what was going on in there. Thus ends this part of our tour, but now it is time for lunch. We understand you may feel a bit queasy, but we guarantee once you get some of our food near you, you'll begin salivating in anticipation uncontrollably for a long time to come. If you will follow me, I will show you to the restaurant. His voice was chipper and happy. Then, on the way, we passed it, a granite stone slab with a bronze plate on it, with the words, "Never Forget." Villa Bretner, 25,000 casualties, engraved on it as a tank sat in his quiet vigil on the pedestal above it. Next to it were crosses on which hung old helmets. The nameplate said it was a Whippet tank. The entire group stood in silent awe as the simple words, "Never forget," ran through their minds. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons: Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon WRE, Holly Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.